Dun dun dun. Hey, good morning. Good morning. I have a few things to talk about today. Oh, I gotta turn that down. Durr. All right. Oh, so we'll get some people in here. Let me make a few adjustments, and looks like notifications finally came out, so that's good. Get some people in here, and I was sitting there. I don't know if I'm gonna go live tomorrow, so I was like, man, I want to go live today, but not sure what to talk about. And then last night it hit me in the face what I need to talk about. There's two things. And I something that might actually affect me as well. So, I mean, it all affects all of us, right? But I mean, hopefully it's not directly. Um, so let me get some adjustments made, and then I'll get some email up here, and then we'll put it on the screen. So, subscribers only. Save there. You got to subscribe to me if you want to comment. All right, so that helps the analytics, or so it seems. But, anyways, good morning. I hope everybody is doing fine. Hope you're not in a blizzard or a hurricane, because there's both going on right now. And not in the same state, so that would be weird. But, be kind of apocalyptic if that was going on. All right, so we'll get some shout outs in here, and then we'll put this email up here. So, not email, but this article. All right. Anyways, I might have to get my glasses on to read this. All right, so let's do some shout outs. We got 23 people in here. I appreciate every single one of you. Make sure you hit the thumbs up before we start. So, like, prejudge it. Like, say, you know what? Steve is just awesome. Let's do a thumbs up. Because I love him. All right. Man, I got beaten up yesterday when it came to the dispatch duties. I mean, at the end of the day, well, I say beat up. It was a bit more of a fight than we needed to have, and it's been absolutely amazing, this experience of booking several different trucks on several different platforms, because you really don't realize just the depth of of what you all are dealing with, whether you're a company driver. Notice I didn't say just a company driver, because company drivers are probably more important than anybody else. But it doesn't matter whether you're a company driver, single owner operator, carrier, leased on to somebody, leasing a truck, buying a truck. You have no idea the depth and the levels of the machine that you're a part of. The vastness of it. And so when I see all the platforms and all the brokers that I call, now mind you, I don't just like go to my CH guy and go, "Hey man, what's up, dude? Book all my trucks for me." I don't do that. I mean, there are days when that's happened, but I do wheel and deal. I do make phone calls. I do negotiate. Sometimes I negotiate well, and sometimes I don't. And sometimes I can negotiate my butt off and get no results, and then sometimes I can just make that one phone call and boom, I get really good results. So that there's a constant change in motion. And until you start booking several trucks and trying to keep them busy and start to strategize, that's why I have all these tools that I show you guys. Because without all these things, I'd be in the dark. And that's part of the problem, is that majority of drivers are in the dark. So, anyways, let's do some shout outs. Jose, good morning. You are the first one. Old school, new school around Hoover Dam. Damn. Cowardly Lion, you are not first, but thank you for joining. Schmitty Trucker, good morning. Greg Zimmer, good morning, Steve. What's up, Greg? Jonathan Wheeler, what's up? Max Force, good morning. CDM Freight Broker, good morning. Steve, busy working in the background, as well you should. And Pam says good morning. Grafton, Sage Now, Sage Live Outcast, hey now. Stuart, what's up? Big Houston, I think I got the 19. Yay me. Oh man, that sucks. I hope you get better. Listening from Tunk Hammock. Guess where? The Tunk Hammock. I'm very familiar with the Tunk. I've only been in there. I think I've only been in there once as a Schneider guy. I might have been in there a couple of times as other carriers, but yeah, it's kind of interesting to go in there. I believe I dropped and hooked in there when I was there at Schneider. Morning from raining Jacksonville. Yeah, it's raining, definitely. That's an understatement, Chucky. Good morning, Shannon. Good to see you. Follow the yellow brick road. Yeah, there you go. Follow the gold laced lined road. Leave it Atlanta heading to Clinton, Iowa. Well, that's a good spot. It's going to get cold. It's going to be chilly. Mr. Britt. Patrick, what's up? All right, so our first order of the day. The big news. Now, I was having a discussion with Big Rig CEO yesterday on the phone, and he's like, we were talking about brokers and their profit margins or whatever. And I tried to tell him that there's another broker that sends me some of this stuff that he probably shouldn't send me, as far as, and it's not CH, it's another brokerage, another guy that's trying to get my business. But he just can't seem to make the rates work because, and he's flat out showed me what, some of the stuff that he sees on his computer about commissions and everything else. And then, of course, I have the, broker software where I can kind of see where things are at as well. And are there brokers making 40, 50%? Probably. But there's also a lot of them that are struggling right now. And this is a perfect example. Now, Sage Robinson, the layoff. Let's get rid of that. Sage Robinson, the layoff, 1,200 employees, sources say. CEO got ahead of ourselves and headcount, didn't expect freight markets to cool this fast. And that's what I've been kind of dealing with, is that it's not, it's been a gradual but fast decline. Well, I guess that's kind of an oxymoron statement. It's been a natural decline. Well, how can I put this? Obviously, if you look at graphs, there's a drop, right? It's not a perfect cliff, but it's definitely a good downgrade. There we go. A faster downgrade than what I've expected. And so we can read this article here. Hold on. I'm going to have to get my glasses. Hold on. Because I'm blind. I just don't like wearing the glasses while I'm on the computer because the blue glare or whatever. See if I can zoom this in. There we go. Truck brokerage giant C.H. Robinson Worldwide is laying off between 1,000 and 1,200 employees, most of whom are at the vice president and general manager level, according to sources familiar with the situation. Now, I believe that's probably the higher paid people. So obviously they're, it's a budget, right? The move comes a week after the Eden Prairie, Minnesota-based company reported weaker than expected third quarter results and strongly hinted at impending labor cost reductions to combat the impact of slowing demand and increased costs. We got ahead of ourselves in terms of headcount said Bob Bysterfield, Robinson's president and CEO, on a post earnings call. Robinson employs nearly 17,000 people. Bysterfield said he did not forecast truckload demand declining as rapidly as it did, as well as spot market and contract rates deflating considerably. Now, FreightWaves just did a thing showing how contract rates are coming down. In a statement Wednesday night, the company said would not confirm the number of layoffs and disputed the number cited by sources, adding, as we said last week in our Q3 earnings, changes in market condition coupled with many successful endeavors on our digital roadmap directed at scaling our model to be more efficient, meaning that we are in a position to reduce our overall cost structure. As a result, we're eliminating some positions at C.H. Robinson. These are not easy decisions because we recognize the significant contribution of the impacted employees. We have tried to approach this with as much respect and empathy for our former colleagues as possible and are providing transition assistance. In late February, Robinson entered into a cooperation agreement with Ankara Holdings Group LLC, an activist investor group, and also named Henry Meyer, a former CEO of FedEx Ground, the U.S. ground delivery unit of FedEx Corp., and Jay Winship, a financial executive, as independent directors. In addition, Robinson's board formed a 4-member capital allocation and planning committee, which the company said would recommend capital allocation operations and strategies, including enhanced transparency and disclosures to shareholders. The panel is chaired by Winship and initially includes Scott Anderson, the company's chairman, as well as Bysterfield and Meyer. So there you have it. CH is making adjustments. And when Coyote did the same thing and TQL did the same thing, they started relying heavily on that AI and also the apps. And they started doing, CH just started doing what Coyote was doing a few years ago, where they were like, you can actually get more money negotiating on the app than you could with your person. And I'm starting to see that trend, and I don't like it because I like my CH person. But it seemed like his hands were tied on a lot of loads this week. I just couldn't get that money. Same thing with the other brokers that I've been dealing with. And they go out of their way to prove to me that it's not them, it's their higher ups. Because the stores and the warehouses are bursting at the seams. They can't take anymore. So that brings me to my next segment that I will get into after I read comments. There wasn't many comments. So good morning, Edgewood. And get rid of this email. With both feet, good morning. From Snoqualmie Pass. Wow, you're probably dealing with some stuff. So this is the sign of the times, okay? And so last night, there's this church downtown Springfield that does this clothing drive once a month. And so my wife likes to go down and help out. It makes you feel good when you can give some people that need it, some clothing that people would normally just throw away, right? Or yard sale it or whatever. And so an overabundance of clothes, which is good. It's nice that we can give to the needy people. And so I went with her. We went down there and we were talking to some of the people, the church members who haven't seen us in a while. They haven't seen me in a while because I don't go to that church anymore. And so they're like, so are you still driving? I said, well, no, not really. I've been doing dispatch and all that. And, and one of them was talking about that her friend at Dollar General said that they've got too much merchandise. I don't know if it was Dollar General or somewhere else, but no, it was Hobby Lobby. That's what it was. And so I kind of mentioned to her that, yeah, there's a lot of carriers and truck drivers that are struggling right now. And so I've devoted full time to dispatching to try to help these people out because it's brutal right now. And she was like, "Really?" And she had no clue. I said, "Yeah, diesel's like $6 a gallon in some places." Wow. I I and so I went and gave her an impromptu lesson that if a load's paying $1.80 a mile and fuel is about 80 cents to $1 a mile, and then you've got expensive equipment costs, there's really not much to take home to your family. And she still didn't get it. She still did not understand. Now I'm thinking, well, this is this one person, right? Obviously, and so I can't judge the entire public off this one person, right? That would be bad. However, started talking to the other people, and they had no clue either. And some of them lean left, some of them lean right politically. So it's not like I was only talking to a bunch of, you know, there's a broad spectrum here at this church of the people that were in there helping with these clothes. And all they know is that their taxes went up, on the property taxes, because now your used piece of crap car is worth more. So there's that. And they just had no idea. They had no idea that we were in a recession. They had no idea the struggles. Well, I've heard on the news that there's a trucker shortage problem. And this is why these protests and shutdown would not work. Because if you don't educate the public before you do your shutdown, they're not even going to know why you're shut down. All they know is that their steak and their eggs and their milk and the box of carbolicious cereal that's bad for them is more expensive now. And if they saw an empty shelf on a store, they'd be like, "Why is the shelf empty?" No clue. And so if you get on the interwebs and you go, "Hey, we need sympathy. We need people to know what we're struggling with. Look at us. We're struggling here." You're going to have to educate, because a lot of these people they had no clue. So as I'm telling them about people that have lost their livelihoods, they're like, "Yeah, man, I was at the store. I noticed they had half the lunch meat that they normally do. This is atrocious." I mean, I mean, it was, and what you have to understand is that you have people like that have no understanding of the world of logistics. And look, I don't blame them for that, because that's not their problem, right? I mean, not yet. It's until they can't find what they need on the shelf, it's not their problem. All you are is just the truck in their way in their way on the way to work, and they don't understand any aspect of the world. And I take that for granted sometimes, the fact that ever since I was about 12, I've been in the trucking industry because of my dad. Actually, even before that, if you want to go into my grandmother was a dispatch for a lot of the LTL Teamsters. She worked for those companies, and she would bring me those die-cast trucks that are worth a fortune now, that I didn't realize that they would be worth a fortune. So I don't know where they're at. But so trucking's been in my family for quite a while in one aspect or another. And so I see a little bit more of that world. And if you think, you could be like just trucking and have 100,000 some odd subscribers on YouTube. But you got to realize that the majority of the public if they're on YouTube, they're watching cat videos or they're watching podcast of or true crime stuff, or they're watching silly videos of people falling down. That they're not watching the stuff that would educate them. They're not watching the things that and maybe they don't want to because they don't want all the fear mongering. They want to avoid all the people telling them that the world's about to end, right? So, which is understandable. Constant cortisol levels being elevated because of what you're watching on YouTube is a bad thing. That's why I won't participate in that fear mongering. So, anyways, yeah, the public doesn't know. Like, for example, the same person was like, in a conversation, yeah, we went to go out to eat the other day, and it took forever to get our food. Why don't they just hire more people and pay them better? Like, absolutely no clue about how business works, right? And you got to realize that's the majority of the public. They don't understand. If you go to some bad fast food joint and there's only like one person behind the counter that's making the food and making the burgers and making and doing the cash, and they're by themselves because four people called in because their dispensary on the corner was able to sell them some good stuff, and that person, the customer, has this fit because this person didn't get their food out. That is a disconnect from that situation. So if you have people that are that disconnected with the situation laid out in front of them, how do they know what's going on in our world? And even when I laid it out, yeah, fuel costs this, trucks cost this, repairs cost this. Wow, I had no idea. Oh, well, the world's coming to an end. No, like, no. And so, and as truck drivers, you have this unique perspective. We see the trends before they happen. We see the booms and we see the declines before they happen. The technology on our trucks was the first technology that later on went to the cars, like the collision mitigation, the anti-lock brake system, lane departure. All that stuff was on trucks years before it was available in the cars. So we are the forefront. We are the forerunners of some some things going on in the country. And so when there's a recession coming, when there's political strife coming, we see that before everybody else because of our perspective, if your eyes are open. But you have to realize that narrow-mindedness is those are the people that bought trucks last year, a lot of them. And so they're on Facebook going, I don't know what happened. I don't know. Why are they? I mean, you literally have a post on Facebook that will say, why are the rates down? No clue. No clue. And if you think they're going to get their information from YouTube, there's too much ego on YouTube. Yes, there are some good channels, but there's too much ego that turns people off. They'd rather just watch cat videos and watch, bonehead truckers. Watch people crash and do stupid things. Because that's the dopamine release. You don't want to know reality, right? And this is evidence that brokers are like, "Oh crap. Huh. Even they did not expect this drop." And so a lot of them are scrambling, and this is not this is just a sign of things that are. Now, did they and look, a lot of companies, they overemploy. So when they can make some cutbacks, it doesn't affect them. That's called lean manufacturing. I've been a part of that in the manufacturing world. If you get 20 people to run this line, putting grommets into panels, let's figure out so we can do 5 people, but we got to make sure that we keep the rest of these people on retainer. So, if there's, so we lay off 15, now we've got our 5. And meanwhile, we're going to try to see if we can do it with 1. And you're just pawns in a game. You're just pawns in a pencil pusher's adjustments. That's all you are when you're not a business owner. I have been having that problem with my Coyote Europe. He can't even negotiate anything anymore. I started noticing that a couple of years ago. They will call you when they need something moved. If you put in a bid on the app, like, hey, man, they'll call. Hey, man, Steve, I saw that you put in this number here, man. I've been trying to get that number, but if you can come up or come down to this, I can make that happen. We kind of really need this moved, but I got to do it within reason. Like, okay, whatever. And the quicker they respond with a decent number, that means they need that load moved. But they're waiting till the last absolute possible minute. They have some of these loads got a 15, 30-day window to move. I had a broker email me her list yesterday. She's got loads all the way up to the 29th of November. Scheduled, ready to go. In all different points of the country. Now, would you be insane to book that load on the 29th because you never know what's going to happen? Is there a possible higher chance of, cancellation, whatever? Yeah, which is why I wouldn't do that. But at the same time, that's how much ahead sometimes a person needs to be. That's how the brokers are doing it. So middle management are being cut, not the boots on the ground. It's the middle management that will calculate the lane prices. Makes me think it's AI driven rather than economic. Stuart, bingo. You are a person that understands this world or is learning to understand this world. There you go. And with an email that a fellow, subscriber sent me with some names blacked out, that kind of makes me think that's the direction that they're going. Meanwhile, other brokerages are already doing that. And this is where low information voters come from. Absolutely nothing witty. But our leadership says we have a robust economy, right? And look, people believe that. They maybe they got $1 more an hour raise at their jobs and not realizing that, stuff is about 20% higher when you go to Walmart or any grocery store. I talk to people all over Florida. And they think that I'm making millions of dollars, and I'm like, where do you see that? And they think that since fuel's $5 a gallon, we were making $6 a mile. Oh no. There it is, Stuart. That's the intention. That was the whole point of part of one of the points of my video on the OG channel about voting. They want to stir your emotions, then stir your intellect. James G, what's up? So this right here, this C.H. Robinson to lay off, that's how they gonna. So here's what's gonna happen. The boots on the ground might be. They said middle management, but I'm thinking that some of the boots on the ground will turn into outsource. And you know what that means. You get somebody calling you at 3 a.m. with an accent you can barely understand, asking you where you're at. Meanwhile, you're looking at the app that shows them where you're at. But yet that's not good enough. Holly in Michigan. Jackknife TV. So yesterday was trash for flatbed rates. Only rates that made sense when went up to New England, but I'd be lucky if I got a load out and the rates were hovering around $1. Wow. I too. So one of my trucks, he can switch from either van to flatbed. He was switching fully to flatbed. I said, "Don't sell the van." He's like, "Okay." He didn't need the money, so he's fine. And you know what? I looked and I said, "Dude, I think we need to go van this week." And because in order for him to do flatbed, he wants to be above a certain number. And if you guys remember my live feed from yesterday, 74% volume is down 74% in the flatbed world. And then you add the additional carriers that went to flatbed. You know, that's it's the imbalance that flatbed was, it's evening up now. But I saw the same thing, Jackknife. Like I said, yesterday was brutal. I had several people call me up frustrated because they were seeing the same thing. So that's the thing. Don't just don't take your own perspective, right? Ask other people what they're doing. Ask what other people what they're, if you're in say Boston, Massachusetts, and you're dealing with the same issues as somebody that's in Southern California, who's also dealing with the same issues as someone in Texas, that's a great indicator that that's what's going on. Being able to filter and discern from people that make their own lives harder because they're just not the brightest candle to the people that are good people that are running their businesses well that are all struggling. That's why this downturn's a little bit different for me. And that's and so that there's you got to have a wider perspective. Don't be like this lady in church that just absolutely had no clue. Because look, here's the thing. Those are the people that are out buying bread and milk right before a snowstorm. Those are the people that are going to the store that can't find toilet paper because they weren't paying attention. And if they're dangerous, they'll have fistfights over that stuff. This lady is not dangerous. But someone who is will take over this person simply because their eyes aren't open. We're focused on these phones. We're focused on the news. We're focused on everybody's, personal problems within your circle, that sometimes it's hard to see what's going out in the wide aerial view of things. And as truck drivers, we tend to should be having a perspective that's a little bit more aerial view. Jose, when I tell them the truth on the rates, they say, "Why would you do that?" I tell them for the fun of it. That's about what it is. There's a North Carolina and even an Illinois load out of Allentown Market, but they're both paid about $1,800 in the Illinois load was a multi-stop. Sold 2 restaurants last month and have $3 million in real estate for sale, preparing for a storm. I hear you. Terry. I post a flatbed load. I got none stop calls. Hey. Why'd you say hey? One of the steel mills I deliver lime to has beams and wire coils stacked all over the place on their property. Oh, these emails are crazy. Also, if you email a broker, put his signature with your phone number. Yes. My signature is awesome. It's got a picture of my truck and everything. Like, I don't mind deadhead in, but eventually the deadhead became way too big that you can't make a profit. Plus, you're not guaranteed to make it up. That's how bad the rates are. Look, here's the thing with deadhead, right? Deadhead is a balance game. And that was one of the discussions on Facebook that I was reading this morning. And this guy was lecturing everybody on how to stop taking bad rates, right? Stop taking bad rates. Ah! I don't know how you guys are making it. And so a couple of people chimed in, well, maybe the guy that's taking that $2 mile freight is actually getting 4 miles to go into that place from his direct shipper. Well, you should just deadhead back. Stop supporting this. It cracks me up. It's so stupid, it cracks me up. And that's the problem with society. I'm struggling, so I'm going to judge you on what you're doing because it's affecting me, even though it's not affecting me. There's something else that's affecting me that I have no idea. And some people tried to educate him, and then you had half the crew like, "Oh yeah, you got a deadhead back now." So let me get this straight. If you take a load for $4 a mile somewhere, let's say, let's use Florida as a perfect example. If let's say you do a load from Michigan to Florida because you're awesome and you have a direct customer out of Michigan that always goes to Florida, and the loads can be done at your leisure because you've got a couple of drop trailers there, so there's no hurry to get back, so you can grab some spot back, okay? And you get down the floor and you're like, I refuse to run for less than $2 a mile. So you deadhead all the way back to Michigan. So if you go from Michigan to Florida for $3 a mile and you take nothing out, you're literally running for $1.50 all miles. That is cheap freight. And I don't know why people don't understand that. Now, if you have to get back at a certain time frame and the loads aren't working, that's different, right? And so you need to have your profit margin to prepare if you got to go all the way back empty. That that's how I work. I mean, look, you can yell at me all you want, you can tell me I'm an idiot, but that's how I look at that. If you do all miles, if you're actually taking pen to paper and doing all miles, and you're deadheading 1,000, 2,000 miles back, and you're not doing the all miles, you're not doing the proper math. And that's how people go out of business, is by not doing that proper math. It's as simple as that. And I don't know why people don't understand that. They'll sit at a truck stop for 2 days or deadhead 1,500 miles because they refuse to run a load for less than $2. Well, you just did it. You just did it by doing all that deadhead. And now, is it okay to deadhead to a better area? Yes, but that's where low volumes come in. So there's, I don't know. It's very interesting to me. Hold on. All right, I'm back. CH is also not letting you book loads with them in certain areas if you haven't hauled 100 plus loads with them because of Glendale type brokers. Right. And that's the other thing. They're getting picky about their carriers. So if you're a crappy carrier, your time is limited. You're only limited to bad brokers. So that's the other aspect to that. I mean, they're coming up with all these funky rules. Yeah, you need 3 inspections. But you guys were using me last year. Well, last year we needed you. This year we don't. I've literally seen that conversation. I was thinking about taking the Illinois load, but it had way too many stops. Plus, they were appointments, so I figured I would take too much time out of the week to get into a decent market. Yes, that is true. That's the only bad thing about multi stops is that it could be time, not the money. Dude, this load's paying $4 a mile, for $2,000. Yeah, but I'm going to be on this all the way until next Sunday. That's not going to work. Tried booking 2 different loads from Tennessee to Indiana and couldn't because of the 100 load deal. Wow. Morning, Steve. Over here, I have the highest loaded rate per mile and the highest rate per mile all miles, but I also have the highest empty miles. It's a balancing act, and it's true. And look, there's a time that's the thing, right? You can't just focus on one load. You can't just sit there and do a blanket statement. Well, I never deadhead, and then you can't do a blanket statement. You got a deadhead out of a bad area. So if I take a load in the same like Fort Myers, Florida, there's a strategy that I have. Number one, I know what I'm getting into. Okay, I know what I'm getting into. Now, in the early days of the spot market, I'm like, oh, look at this load paying really great going to Florida. I wonder why. Well, book it anyways. We'll figure it out. Oh, yeah, you figured it out all right. That's why I don't go to the West either. I figured that out the hard way. So, so when you look at, so here's what I do when I go into Florida. Number one, I try not to go more south than Tampa or Orlando. I don't do Miami. I don't do the Everglades. I don't do Port St. Lucie, although I've done that as a company driver. So, so I look at what the potential deadhead's going to be, and then do a shorty as far north as I can with the shortest hop that I can possibly do to a better area. Now, Alabama and Louisiana for van right now are not better areas. So I'll try to either get to Memphis or sometimes the better paying loads coming out of northern Florida are going to Texas. Now, Texas I can deal with. I have strategies in Texas. I have connections in Texas. North Carolina is the other, you know, beacon that I look for. And so when I add both the loads together, okay, that's not a bad number. But if you take a $1.10 a mile going all the way from Florida back up to Michigan, well, it depends on the situation. Some people might do that, some people won't. If you're just out here zigzagging across the country trying to make as much money as possible, that is not a good idea because it's going to take you 3 days to get up there. So now you're stuck on this, $1,000 load for 3 days. That does not sit well with me. The rate per mile, a lower rate per mile has to make sense if it gives you a good rate per day. And that's why you got to do both math. That's just my opinion. I'm not the brightest candle. These are just things that I've figured out that works for me and a few others. And this is what I know good, successful people that are not struggling as much as others in this market. That's what they do. People I network with, this is what they do. Just like Gary said, it's a balancing act. Sometimes you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. So, as a company driver, we were taking loads from Springfield to Port St. Lucie to Tropicana. It was plastic pallets. Gravy runs because they were light and it was great. And every single time but once, the company deadheaded us to Conyers, where we had an account with the paper, International Paper, I believe, or Georgia Pacific, one of those two, right? 600-mile deadhead. But you know what? Those plastic pallet loads were doing really good. So it balanced out in the end, and the truck stayed moving. And now, as a company driver, it was no big deal to me because you know why? I got paid the same regardless. 600 miles. You want me to deadhead 600 miles and you're paying me my same mileage rate? Sign me up. Someone wants to pay me to drive an empty truck around the country. Where you at? I'll work for you. So just know that, right? There's a balancing act. And unfortunately, it's experience. Gary's been in this game a while. He was over at Schneider, and then he went over to a spot carrier. So he's been playing this game for a minute. What's up, SST? That's what I do here, running Atlanta to Florida. Sometimes I do a local, but when I don't, my average is $150 because of the deadhead. And that's where we're getting. So that strategy, what's killing that strategy of deadheading out of somewhere for a massive amount of miles is the fuel. That's the kicker. So somebody might take that $1.10 mile load to pay for fuel to get back up. And they're like, oh, you shouldn't just work for fuel money. Ugh. The last 2 loads I ran in my truck barely paid for fuel because we needed to do something specific. You know, Jeff needed me to shuttle some trailers around. So it's and I had to go home empty on one of them. I actually had to go empty on both the trailer movements. So I barely made anything. It literally just gave the money to the fuel guy. So and that's what happens. What's up, T-Bone? Sterling, good morning from somewhere in Nevada. Rough night. Tough to catch a nap in the day cab. It is. Yeah, you figure it out for sure, right? What's up? Good morning, cool trucking. Edgewood, sometimes they want you to download a tracking app or they will charge you a fee. That's what I'm on now in Houston. I mean, look, there's been an increase of that. Why are brokers saying, "Hey, we'll charge you if you don't use the tracking app"? Well, number one, they're hoping that you don't to an extent so they can lower the rate. But also number two, they're not desperate for you. Their customer, and they've used that to go into their customer and say, "Hey, we require drivers to have tracking apps so you know where your content is at all times." I mean, that's what Schneider did. Schneider's had tracking on their stuff for years. So, I mean, you're looking at your Amazon package. What do? They send you a tracking link because you want to know that it's stuck somewhere in Kansas City for 3 days before it reaches you. Because they don't want the phone call, "Hey, where's my stuff?" And also, the reason why brokers started doing that is because drivers flat out refuse. They'll get on Facebook, they'll get on TikTok, which is probably the most invasive app you could ever have, but they refuse to have a tracking app because it knows too much information. Meanwhile, they got Google Maps running in the background. It's the same stuff. Your ELD is the tattletale. Now, you can turn off your location when you're done with the load. You could do that. You get on Facebook and bitch about it so everybody knows your location anyways. Orlando, Lakeland is about as far as I'll go into Florida no matter what I'm point, unless it's some ridiculous rate, right? The best way I find to describe it, you better have 3 days thinking and problem solving skills to focus on one area you will get or you will get burned. Then you get a plan set and someone cancels a loan on you. That's the danger of doing one of them high dollar loads. Is that now it's probably going to take you to a dead area or a bad area. And that reload, like for example, I was talking to my CH guy looking at a load out of California. I was like, "Hey man, I will not book this unless you've got something on the return." Now, I know this guy. I know this guy wouldn't just put me on something just to say that and then it cancel. But you never know. There's a lot of low cancellations happening right now. A lot. Ask me how I know. So, anyways, I didn't want to risk it. So, and look, in my network, people in Nevada was like, "Hey, man, if you got a team out in California, man, I've got a few connections to help you out." Cool, thank you. But I'm not using that resource because I figured out something else. But I would not book that load. You know, like if I wanted to go to Phoenix, I'd be. I mean, look, that's the beauty of long runs is you've got a few days to plan, and you never know. A market in an area could completely flip in the 4 days it takes you to get down there. You know, you don't want to go out to California and like, oh man, how come I can't find a load coming out of here? That's weird. You don't want to be oblivious like that person at the church. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of people did this past year, is they bought a truck completely oblivious on how this system works. Even people driving 15, 20 years that don't have a clue about how this industry works. They claim it's for less check calls than still blow you up with emails, texts, and phone calls. Yeah, cool truck that's happened to me twice this last week. Yep. And so my strategy to combat I can't speak combat low cancellations is to be in an area at a specific time where it shouldn't be a challenge. In other words, if you book a load that picks up Friday night in West Virginia and that load cancels, you're screwed. You're done for the weekend, or you're deadheading 300 or 400 miles just to keep moving to get somewhere that might have something that has a Saturday pickup. And then you get there, and then that load's canceled. So now you just deadhead 300 miles and there's nothing else. Blind deadheads. You know, look, if you're going to deadhead, a blind deadhead is not recommended. Even Florida. Yeah, go north. Yeah, well, do you go north on 95 or do you go north on 75? Which is it? My bet is always 95. Because you can at least get something out of either Atlanta, if you take a hard left, or up in Savannah area. Usually it's the Savannah Jacksonville area. You can grab at least something. Very rarely, if you go the other way, you're going to go to either Mobile or Tallahassee or Pensacola. And Alabama market's been crap here, unless you're flatbed. So, but what I will do is if I take a truck that's going to empty out in Illinois on Friday morning, and the reload out of there cancels, well then now I've got a better chance of getting something out. Last week I had one of our drivers, nobody I dispatched, but I was talking to him, and he was sitting there in Illinois, and where he was at, there were 600 loads within a 100 or 50-mile radius. I said, "You're going to find something. Just give it some time." So it's all strategy. Learn from the people that are doing it. Charles says that's what happened to me yesterday for my load out of Jacksonville. Yep. Yep, I drove about 100 miles to pick up a load of cable reels, and it canceled. By that time, I was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 3:30. I said, screw it. I'm 100 miles away from home. I'm going back. Heading to Savannah now, getting back to Midwest. There you go. Terry says, Steve, I got to give you props. You've changed so much in the past 2 years. I've known you. Love these feeds. Thank you, Terry. That means a lot to me. I appreciate that. My ego, man, you're gonna make my ego grow. That's what you're gonna do. And it sucks that we didn't get to have dinner the other night. So you need to come back to Springfield. I'm sure there's about to be 100 dispensaries built that might need your product. As far as the building stuff, the on top of the buildings there that you supply. One load canceled en route, and now I'm fighting for Tonu. Yep. And that's what I mean by I've had a brutal week. Now, my rate per mile is actually pretty decent. So there's still money out there. But again, it's like the bargain bin at Walmart, the bargain DVD bin at Walmart. You're searching, and that search is getting tougher. So, I mean, look, a lot of people are suffering, and a lot of it's because they just don't know. They just don't see. Right? And sometimes the internet can be your best friend, and sometimes it can be your worst enemy. Like this whole red wave thing. Everybody's like, "Oh, the red wave wasn't there." Da 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 da. And don't worry, I'm not getting political, but let me point this out. So the church that we were at yesterday also have a homeless issue around the church, and sometimes they'll pick this one entrance that's got a lot of shelter for them to spend the night. And of course, elections were being held, and some of them, go to the schools, but others go into the churches. And they had the election person or whatever that was in charge had to kick off the homeless person because it could influence your vote. That was the only reason why he kicked them out. And the reality is that the far left will see that homeless person blame the far right, and the far right will see that homeless person blame the far left. We don't like going outside of our spectrum of views. And so people just don't know. There are a lot of people like, I don't know why there's even homeless people. Why is that even a thing? Because they just don't know. They just don't. FYI, I-35 past Davis, Oklahoma is currently closed due to accident. Well, that sucks. Tennessee, it's all turned to crap. Never been so disappointed in my life. Rug pulled out from under my feet. Tennessee, I know it's a struggle, but we'll get through this. The internet is your worst friend and your best enemy. I like that. I'm going to leave that comment up for a minute, Sterling. And so, and look, and sometimes you just got to keep on keeping on. I know, and Ratman can attest to this. There are some times that your business just doesn't make a profit for a minute. You know, I know two people that have very, very successful businesses outside of the trucking space, and they've both told me the same thing. Restaurant owner may not make any profit for 2 to 3 years. You just got to keep on keeping on. And the problem with that in the trucking world is if there's a breakdown or the costs keep coming up for us. And diesel's the big thing. Like this lady had no idea that diesel was that high in some places. Are you serious? It's $6 a gallon somewhere? I said, it's almost $7 in some places. Like, really? and your loads don't pay for that? No. Just completely oblivious, right? James Clark says cycles. Yep. It's part of the cycle, but this time it's a little bit different because of the fuel prices. That's the big difference here. So that I'm going to deadhead 400 miles out hurts a little bit harder. They don't know or they don't want to know. That's the other thing. Oh, I mentioned that earlier, Jose, about how why should they get on YouTube and educate themselves if that stresses them out? I literally had a driver tell me this one time, long time ago. Yeah, I don't use those programs to crunch my numbers because it would only stress me out. I'm like, that's the mentality thing. If you sit there and if it stresses you out to run your numbers, that's a problem. If it stresses you out to not run your numbers, then yes, you are on the right mindset. Because and look, I was that guy. I was that guy like, I don't want to run my numbers. I don't want to know the truth. I've been that guy. And once you run your numbers, run it with someone that has a lot of knowledge. Had a friend of mine check his numbers. He was stressed out. He called Jeffrey Light. Jeffrey Light calmed him off the edge. And that's what Jeff has done for me in the past. When I was at Landstar, he totally redid my numbers and said, Steve, you're going to be okay. I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess I am. So don't let your perception create such negativity or fatalistic views that you don't think you can move on. And that's where faith and fight have to come in. The better someone's personal economy is, the less likely they are to notice that others are struggling. That is true. But these people are struggling and don't even realize it, Smitty, like this lady at church. I'm sure I don't think she's rich, but she's definitely insulated from a lot of the issues that are going around. Damn truck just cost me all my net profit from last month and had to get into savings. That sucks. Sorry to hear that. Like I would assume by now we would have a huge purge that they would at least adjusted the rates a little bit, but apparently I guess the guys are still hanging in there. Yeah, there's a few things going on with that jackknife. I think that there was such an abundance of trucks that it's going to take a while before it's all depleted. But again, you got to look at the volumes. When you look at the flatbed numbers on DAT trend lines, it's literally 75% drop in volume, in demand. That's the number you look at. What is the demand? Fuel and DH should be figured in your quote. Fuel and deadhead, sorry. Yeah, I mean that's kind of what we were saying earlier. The problem is if you have a breakdown, no one will work on it. Lowe's TA or Petro. People being weak-minded to the point of not being able to handle reality because it's too stressful does not make me super hopeful about the future of society. Absolutely. I've realized the last several months home that my friends and family have no idea what I went through the last 20 years. They don't. They really don't. So if you think you're going to get sympathy from the public, ain't going to happen. All you are is just trucking your way, especially if you protest with a nice, shiny, brand new, chromed out truck that gets 5 miles to the gallon. That person's going to be like, you're a problem, not a solution. And look, do I believe that? No. But I'm talking about the general public's perception of the truck driver. They don't realize that a lot of us are small business owners run around this country. They just see a truck, a name on the side, and and that's it. This is where my coffee comes from. This is where my toilet paper comes from. Is this vehicle? It's in my way. It's going to make me late to work. It's his fault. Oh, I jumped a few comments here. All right. What put me out of business is fuel. Having to utilize Midwest market and avoid home, knowing that the whole time a breakdown would totally wipe me out. Run the same load for the same broker for months, and just like magic, the rate drops 40%, and they say it's because of the market. The customer is still paying the broker the same. What gives? I don't think they are paying the broker the same. Some instances, yes. Now, when that rate drops 40% overnight, I mean, look, there we don't know, and that's part of the problem is you just don't know. But if you're a brokerage that's got 100 loads on your board and suddenly it's down to 20, yeah, they might be making the same money on being paid for that from that customer, but now their profit margin has to be better because they got less loads. Just like if you're running if your profit margin on 3,000 miles and all of a sudden you're down to 1,000 miles, your profit margin better be pretty decent for that. So it's the same thing. That's part of the game, right? And so there's no telling. In Wamstetter created a fuel leak and Loves won't work on it. Yeah, nor would I have Loves work on that. Old school, new school. I got my delivery in Vegas and luckily I have a load out. Good deal. Hopefully it doesn't cancel. Back in February, says Jose, I saw that this year I was not going to make money with everything going on in the industry, so I just do it for fun. After 35 years, I just go with the flow till it changes again. And that gives and look, that can give a pretty solid outlook, right? Wheelburner, you're late. Good morning. I try to keep deadhead under 10% when I book a load for future load. There you go. So you're figuring things out. You do your math, right? You do your math, James, and that's great. I'm on DAT right now looking at loads. Most of them don't have posted rates, and I feel like I'm wasting my time calling because they're literally asking me to run for almost free into a decent market. It's especially frustrating when you're at home because you're comfortable. You're like, oh, man, I could afford to sit here for 3 days. Again, I've been that guy. Still am. I mean, I haven't moved my truck in a while. So, but that's because I'm dispatching, not because I'm like, I ain't moving for these rates. Rah. But loads that used to pay me 1,200 and now paying like 500, yeah, it's gonna take a little bit to coax me to turn that key. But it's got to take a good load for me to create my mobile office so I could dispatch from the road. Like my house now has a flatbed, golden rates have fallen. Like my house, how has flatbed golden rate? Okay. Like my own, like oh my god, how the golden rates of flatbed have fallen, and most of the public looks at us in a bad light, anyways. Plus, they know if they're paying us, their product goes up in cost. Alexander, Caterpillar 30, 4 miles per gallon, good way to do biz. 8 miles per gallon for weak people is weak for weak people. Look, if you can make it with 4 miles per gallon, then kudos to you, my friend. Seriously. And there are people that are. So, I see I am weird. I'm that weird person that enjoys this. Don't get me wrong. I feel the stress and pain, but enjoy the challenge and feel accomplished when I defeat it. And that's why you're successful, Chucky, because you got the fight in you and you have a different perspective on things. And that's the important thing, right? It's all about mindset at this point. If you have the right look, and I've said this over, and I'll say it again. There are people that start a trucking business that have every advantage. They got good credit, they got a lot of money in the bank, and they still fail in a good market. And then you got that guy that when he made his first truck payment, he had $20 in his pocket, and the wife sent home eating ramen noodles. And that guy makes it. He eventually crawls himself out of that. Why? What was the difference between the two? Mindset. You can have every advantage given to you, but it's nothing without the mindset. And you have people that are given nothing. They have to fight for every inch, and they make it. What's the difference? Mindset. It's as simple as that. Someone asked me, "Well, Steve, what if you lose all your dispatch? What if you have to get back in the truck?" I'll get back in the truck. What if you got to do the 3,000-mile loads and stuff like that? If it allows me to further my career or further my business venture, then yes, I will do that. Will it suck at times? Absolutely. There's a part of me that's gotten used to this home life, but there's another part of me that misses driving full time as well. So I try to play the balance game. And it could come to that. And so I constantly think, what would I be doing if I didn't have the advantages I have now? Because I set things up to prepare for this. And so I have great empathy for people that are struggling right now, as long as their mindset's in the right place. If their mindset's not right and you're not able to educate them, then there's not much I can do. Just get out of the way, let the pros handle this. Big Houston's going to ask the question to Alexander. When I wake up and need to use the bathroom, I actually have a bathroom to use. Brings me satisfaction. It'll knock my ramen. That sounds bad for you, man. Ask me how I know. As a fellow ramen addict, ex-addict, I get it. That's gross. Woohoo! I got another home run. My dispatcher just set me up with a $4,500 load to Rawlins, Wyoming. I don't think I'll get another home run out of this, but I sure need that. What are you going to get out of Rawlins, though? Oh, the one sad reality out here right now, there are a number of truck drivers who are going broke and don't even realize it. Hey, sometimes ignorance is bliss, right? Sometimes you're like, oh, man, everything's great. Oh, I just filed bankruptcy. Oh, well. I mean, look, that might be a happier way to live, be honest with you. Sean said, Sean's over there with Big Orange. He said volumes have dropped even more. Look, there's a graph. It shows, contract rates have dropped as well. So, anyways, look, I'm not trying to be all doom and gloom. Look, if you have the right mindset, there's a fighting chance. If you have the right perception, there's a fighting chance. If you network with the right people, there's a fighting chance. And that's how it's always been, whether the market's good or bad. Always. How do you run a bad market? The same way you run a good market. Keep your costs low, be as efficient as you can, don't make decisions based off emotion, and just keep on keeping on. That mindset will always get you forward, regardless of what you're dealing with. Wife, if you're watching, can you write down 116, please? So, check your text. Okay. Okay. Good old Brit. I don't know if Brits do it better. Good old Brit making me laugh. So and look, Brit deals with that too. He helps. Schneider says, "Hey, these people need help," and some he can, some he can't. It's all about mindset. And and that's what I try to do, right? I try to help people. People call me all the time. Hey, what's your opinion of this? What's your opinion of that? What are you seeing? What are you not seeing? What are people struggling with? What are people succeeding with? And because I have this big aerial view, I can kind of like, well, here's what's working for me. Here's what's working for this person. Here's what's not working. Here's what this person had to do, and it's not going to end well. That kind of thing. And I agree with that, SSD, and that's just part of the game. So let me unshare the screen here, and we'll get to some low board stuff because I'm sure that's the only reason why you're here, right? We had up to 70 people in here. I thank you. If you don't mind, give me the thumbs up because I'm awesome and you're not. Ha, just kidding. No, give me a thumbs up. It helps get the message out there for the people that maybe want to try YouTube to learn something. You know, if they learn something from me, great. If they don't, if they think I'm an idiot, that's fine too. I get it. Because there's been times, look, there's a few things that I struggle with as well. How's my truck going to act once I take it out on the road? You know, that depth sensor could just flip me the bird tomorrow and like, well, it sucks to be you, Steve. So you never know. All right, so here's Van. Let me get this on the screen. Do do do. All right. Meanwhile, this broker's been emailing me like cray. Hide that. It's out. It's out here today. I'm doing 2250 in a day and a half, and then for the weekend doing 8,000 to the house multi-stop. But got to do it. Are you reefer or van, James? I'm curious. This is van, by the way. This South Carolina, that's no joke. They're trying to push stuff for $1.30 out of there. Here, I will demonstrate. Here's a load going out to Cali for $1.78 a mile. Wow, that's actually not bad for California, going out to California. But I would go way higher. See, but that's a run that the carriers don't want to do. That's why there's a little bit more money on that one. And so when you look at the history, it's all over the place, depending on what California was doing. If California was booming, you weren't getting squat to go in there. But if California is not booming, then they gotta come up with the money. So let's see. Let's look at here's a low paying $6.89 a mile for that's 689 miles. Sorry, I'm dumb. It's actually not bad. Do I have this on reefer? No, this is van. Oh. Let's see. Let's do Waterloo, Iowa. Look at that. See that trend right there? They don't even have a higher low at this point. Averages too. So, but South Carolina took a dump yesterday. Now, mind you, there's a tropical storm going through that area as well, so that's a situation that you need to be aware of. Reefer, there you go. That's LTL reefer. I'm telling you, man, if I had a reefer, that's what I'd be doing. As long as the time made sense. Just came out of South Carolina to Illinois for $1.87. It was the best I could do. Made good money coming down though. There you go. That's how it's done. Florida and GA as well, trying $1.20, $1.30 as well. Southeast just ain't it right now. Well, part of that is this area right here. North Dakota, parts of Minnesota, and South Dakota are under a blizzard warning. And so a lot of these drivers that used to hang out, now they're down here hanging out. And so what happens every winter, or every time there's a big snow system that comes through, it creates the AI and the brokers with the information see that, and they capitalize on that. And so what this Truck and Life said about, well, they've decreased the rate, from what it was, at a certain time, but they're still probably charging the customer. Well, even if that's true, they can, because it's all supply and demand driven. So if the shippers and the receivers aren't desperate for this stuff, and it can sit on the dock for 10, 15 days because it's not perishable, and everybody's going south because they want to avoid the weather, it happens every year. It happens every year. That's why January and February. Now, January is kind of a weird month, but February, definitely, boom, done. It's over. And that's why you started, it used to be that you picked up some of the spring items like charcoal and mulch and, gardening stuff and supplies, for building your shack out back, whatever. Those would start shipping in March. So there's usually the uptick starts in March. Well, now they're like, man, this warehouse is full. Let's ship this in February because we're not desperate for it. That way we'll get a lower rate, because historically rates are low in February. So they're pushing that out. And like Schneider, they were shipping Christmas stuff and dropping hook trailers, back in August. But you have Walmart stores that are literally building warehouses on their parking lot in some places. So what do you do? How do you combat that, Steve? That's a very crappy situation. You're putting fear in my head. Well, you try to go to consumable goods that people need regardless of the economy and the materials that are associated with that. What always sells regardless of what the economy is doing? Well, alcohol. So get that beer permit. Carbolicious, soda is very addictive, so that those sales ain't going away anytime soon. So haul the carbolicious, haul the materials to make the carbolicious. If you're a tanker, you're probably hauling molasses or sugar. If you're reefer, you're probably hauling finished product or packaging. Packaging goes in reefers. If you're van, you're hauling all of it, the empty bottles to the packaging to the finished product. And and like Thomas Wilson, who's always in here trolling me, he does a lot of stuff for Pepsi. He's still making good money. He's still doing okay. Is he paying more for fuel? Yeah, but he got an APU to adjust to that. So the consumable goods is where it's at. And that's why, reefer volumes have actually picked up a little bit. Why? Because now we're hauling the food for the holidays. Nothing, Woody. Get your hazmat so you can haul ingredients for energy drinks. Oh, and you know why that's funny? Because it's true, because that's what I used to do. So if you're a single truck carrier or you're a small carrier, take a look at what hazmat, looks like, insurance. Because if there's 100 loads on a board, look, brokers love it when you say, "Hey, we haul hazmat." They're like, "Really?" So now they can go into a customer and say, "Hey, we have the ability to haul hazmat. We've got a carrier that will do it." I mean, that's Landstar's edge. You have to have your hazmat to work to be a contractor for Landstar. No ifs, ands, buts about it. There's no exceptions. Why? Because they want to know that if you book yourself on a hazmat load, that you can pull it. But that's funny. Haul farm seeds. Yep, farm seeds. What does it take to make carbolicious? Well, corn, right? So you haul the fertilizer, you haul the seed, you haul the equipment to move that seed, you haul the equipment that moves that farm equipment. Farms are required to buy new equipment every so often. And a lot of them are corporate owned, so they do that no problem. So if you're a flatbed, who's the person that's got that equipment? Can you get a hold of them? See, I'm not just going to present problems to you. I'm going to present hopefully some aspects to look at, to look outside of the box. I would like to go back to hauling produce, just don't know what the rates are, and skill level for those commodities can be a bugger. Um, well, apples are big. They're paying decent coming out of Michigan, and Christmas trees. I would look at Christmas trees right now, people. I pull eggs every day. We're busy, and again, eggs are needed for everything. Whether you're eating carbolicious or keto, they're used for recipes. They're used on their own. Um, eggs. That's a good commodity. There's a couple of reefer carriers, small carriers. That's all they do is the local egg farms around here. I talked to one of them one day. I was delivering pallets to an egg farm, and so that's been my mo is pallets. When the market's really good, pallets are a hot commodity. I've made a lot of money just shuttling good and bad pallets everywhere. Chirogenic cough. Yep. I mean, look, pneumatic Brit is a perfect example. I'm hauling a lot of chemical for water treatment plants and card and paper manufacturers. Yep. Paper is a necessity. They got to print your debt on something to send you the bill, right? Ink, paper, the roots of the manufacturing. If you can haul stuff for power plants, we always need power, right? I actually wanted to dabble into the tanker world. In fact, if I ever decide to go company, there's a company out of northern Missouri that I would probably look into. They do food grade, and I've had two. My CDL instructor, he was a tankering anchor. He taught me how to drive extremely smooth because you have to. There's a certain skill level with that, and I do have my tanker endorsement. I have whole corn syrup in a reefer in the winter. Keep it at 80 degrees. Yep, that's right, Britt. Tankering Anchor United. Looking at long term, not spotlight. Today is United States Marine Corps birthday. Think of it, Semper Fi. There you go. My dad was a Marine. But, look, I mean, that doesn't make me special. I'm not special at all, but it makes my dad awesome. So, um, pivoting is good, right? So, haul the stuff that no one else wants to haul. And if you got a van or a reefer, it's a little bit harder, but it's there. And that's the strategy I've been using with everybody. Hey, you want to do this? Yeah. All right. You got $3 a mile now. Everybody else is struggling to get $1.80. There you go. Or you just got 2,200 in one day. So that it is possible, right? But it's all about mindset. If you don't have the right mindset, you're dead in the water, regardless of whatever advantages you have. I've seen people with brand new trucks go out of business, and I've seen people with paid off trucks go out of business. I've seen people with paid off trucks in a $3 a mile market go out of business. And I've seen people that can survive off $1.50 all miles. Sign on to somebody. I mean, that's rare, but what's the difference? It's all mindset. So let's look at the reefer hot market map. Speaking of reefer, we'll do a couple low board things, then we'll call it. Yeah, I definitely need to get back to work. So, anyways, that's your reefer hot market map. A little bit more green, and that's all the processed frozen stuff: ice cream, frozen pies. Mom don't make apple pie anymore, so it would just get out of freezer. And then that's part of the deal with California and Idaho as well. So, and Texas. So there's your reefer state. So reefer's faring a little bit better this week on the trends. Let's look at flatbed. Flatbed has become a crap show. There it is. It's not too bad up here. But in here, but as this all turns more red, it's going to force more trucks in these areas. So eventually that's going to make things come down. So if you're a boat hauler, that's what it looks like for you. Use that for the screenshot. Now, if you see this in van or reefer, it's a wrap. Put the for sale sign up and go flip burgers like everybody claims that they would go do. I could work for McDonald's for more money than this. Well, then go do it. See how long you last. What are the hot loads? Yeah, that's we won't step into that mess. But yes, they're probably paying very, 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 very well. Yellow must be a good color because I'm in one going to one. Yellow's not bad. Just means that and again, this is 2 1 2 3 low board, right? Are there reefer loads out of Mercerburg, PA? Well, let's take a look here. So, find loads. My cat wants out again. Mercersburg, is that right? Mercersburg. Oh, yeah, I guess it is. Never heard of it. All right, going anywhere, and what kind of truck? What date, Smitty? What date? We got it for today and tomorrow. Let's see, search. All hell, there's 133 loads for today and tomorrow. See, and here's something you guys got to consider, okay? Oh wait, is this for van or reefer? No, I put reefer. There we go. All right. Where are all these loads going? Washington, Montana, Arizona, Wyoming, California, Oregon. Okay, here's one going to Jackson, Tennessee. It's actually paying pretty good. It's paying 308 a mile. Texas, Tennessee. So I'd be on SRAM Logistics going, hey man, what's this Tennessee stuff about? Because Memphis, you got Arkansas, and Northeast Missouri that you can get some reefer freight out of. Mississippi, South Haven. That might as well be Memphis. Here we go. Sterling, Illinois. Philly to Sterling. Knows how much lower it's paying than the one going to Tennessee. Same mileage, but it's paying 211 a mile versus the 308 that the other one was paying. So, you never know. But because they know you're going to a good area, right? Here we go. Harrisburg to Independence, Missouri. Bet you that's going to the caves. $1.63 a mile. I don't think so. Alabama. $1.88 to go into Alabama. Yeah, that's a definite no. Lewiston, Maine, 292 a mile. That's a good rate, right? But what are you going to get out of Lewiston? So let's click on that load. Let's take a look, shall we? Because Maine is a beautiful state. I've been there. Frozen food. Look at that. Look how much that crashed, right? So let's go down. Oh, wow. There's actually some loads coming out of there. 36. Not the best number, but it's something. So let's go back to our list. So yeah, there's quite a few loads, and they're going to all different points. But if you notice, like here's one going to Bronx for $800. Yeah. So obviously SRAM's got a lot of this freight coming out of Pennsylvania, out of the area. So SRAM has taken their brokerage and they said, "Hey man, we're going to dominate an area of reefer freight." So what I would do is I would go to SRAM and say, "Hey, I'm your friend now. Keep me moving. Keep me busy." There you go. And you can click on what the 123. What I like about it is you can click on it, and you can literally click on all their loads. Right? And that's not a good angle there. And you can literally plan your loads around that one particular brokerage. Like, oh, they got a load out of Frankfort, Kentucky, going to Billings, Montana. So you would look at, okay, what do they got going to Kentucky? And if you call an agent and he's got the right information and he or she knows what they're doing, they can literally set you up where you're doing 2 or 3 loads. And it looks like their rates aren't bad. But the other point I was trying to get to is that a lot of these loads are the stuff that carriers don't want to do, like the loads to Montana, the loads to the Bronx, the loads to, you know, California. That's what they don't want to do, that stuff if they have a carrier. So Schneider's not going to come in and take all this rate because they can't get their guys out of Montana. They can't get their guys out of Wyoming. Well, Schneider doesn't run reefer anyways, but you know what I'm saying. Like Prime, we'll use Prime as an example. But Prime has the leverage, because they can send a truck up there, right? Here's another one: Brainsville, PA to Springfield, Illinois. That'd be a good spot. What are they paying? Nothing posted, so now so you can look at that, and it's beer, winter lager. So getting your beer permit's important, and knowing what states requirement. So that's the other thing. You got to know what states require it to go through, and what states require it to pick up or deliver beer. Some states require nothing. Other states will say, well, you can take a load through here, you need a permit. Then other load, you can take a load through, you just can't pick up or deliver here. I mean, this ain't Smoking and the Bandit, right? Look at Sage. Get off my lawn. Don't come here. Wow, no boats. Thank you, Adco. Nomadic Brit. I'm chemical. TC is Cairo, but I wonder how other tankers like Pneumatic fracking tanker. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure food grade's doing pretty good. Great feature. Yep. The problem with SRAM is that they're all multi-stop, and the few that I've done have always had problems with appointments. And that's one of the knowing that, that's good to know. So now I've learned something today. So if I'm ever got to look at a reefer load and I see SRAM, more than likely, because that's why you see the good money, right? That's why their money was consistently better than the others. It's like that other brokerage, Best Bay or Bay, whatever, they're trying to run LTL. In fact, Bay Best requires you to load your truck sometimes. Yeah, I mean, if it pays and the time and everything makes sense, that's fine. But a lot of people don't want to put up with that. So that being said, guys, thanks for watching. 48065, by the way, on the 160 low board, if you want to try it out for 30 days free. It does have a lot of cool features. Some I'm not even tapped into. And look, there's hope. There's always hope, man. Really, it's all about mindset. It's all about don't cut each other's throats. Help each other out. And in return, you might get some help as well. So with that being said, thanks for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. Let me remove this and enjoy the song. Strength for today, hope for tomorrow. And hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. If not, then, be safe, be good, be profitable. Peace.